Guys, I'm back. Um, I just want to say I got some messages to please continue, and they really meant a lot. And so I'm here, and I'm gonna read some more tonight. I've got a lovely cup of homemade chai and my books, and let's get to it. We're gonna start on chapter 6, page 81, under the kind of subtitle Almuten. Let's get to it. Oh wait, and I should say the book we're reading is On the Heavenly Spheres with Helena Abelard and Luis Faberio. The Almuten. The Almuten, the word Almuten, is a corruption of an Arabic term that means the victorious or the winner. In astrology, the Almuten is considered to be the planet that possesses the most dignity in a particular point of the horoscope, in the horoscope. As an example, consider Mercury at 4 degrees and 9 minutes. I was going to say inches. Minutes in Nietzsche's horoscope. Through the table of essential dignities, we'll see which planet have dignity in this degree of the zodiac. Since the sign is in Libra, with Venus as its ruler, Mercury receives 5 points. In Libra, the exaltation belongs to Saturn, so it gets 4 points. And since Libra is an air sign, Saturn also has diurnal triplicity, so it gets 3 more points. In the table, we can see that the 4th degree of Libra is also the term of this planet, so it receives 2 more points. Saturn, therefore, scores a total of 9 points. The remaining triplicities of the air element belong to Mercury, nocturnal, and Jupiter, participating. Therefore, both acquire 3 points in this position. Now consider face. Consulting the table, the first 10 degrees of Libra are under the dominion of the moon, so 1 point is added. Saturn is clearly the planet with the highest score in that degree. We therefore conclude that Saturn is the Almuten of Mercury in this horoscope. Horoscope. This means that in the interpretation of Mercury, we must add a Saturnian tone, containment, reserve, and depth of thought to a more leisurely and social expression of Mercury in Libra, like me. I have Mercury in Libra. But mine is in the 3rd decan, so different. Anyway, the calculation of Almuten is also used to determine which planet has the most power over non-planetary points in the horoscope, for example, the ascendant. Let's again look at the example of Nietzsche, who has the ascendant at 29 degrees Scorpio and 9 minutes. The ruler is Mars, and therefore receives 5 points. Since we are dealing with a water sign, Mars also has nocturnal triplicity, adding 3 more points. The total is 8 points. Venus also has triplicity, diurnal, in water signs, so it receives 3 points, to which we add 1 more point, since it also has face in the last 10 degrees of Scorpio. The sum total being 4 points. The moon gets 3 points for being participating triplicity, and Saturn gets 2, because this degree of Scorpio is in its term, see figure 15. Oh, it's a nice little it's a little breakdown of that right there. Okay. I want to say, I'm just going to read really quick before I conclude here. Note that in this box, note that the calculation, we did not figure the debilities. Libra is in detriment of Mars and fall of the sun. The calculation of Almuten seems to determine the planet with the most dignity in a degree. That is, the planet that has command at that point. So debilities do not need to be considered. I actually didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. I think that changes my calculations. Okay. This is why we read books, friends. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to get all this from like YouTube tutorials or yeah. This is why we read books. We conclude then that Mars is the Almuten of the ascendant. Since Mars is already the ruler, this conclusion confirms its power over that point in the horoscope. As can be seen, Almuten always corresponds to the rulership or exaltation of the respective sign, thus corroborating the power of the power of one of the major dignities. Almuten indicates the most powerful planet in a particular point in the horoscope. We can also use the calculation of Almuten to determine the planets that has dominion over a group of points in the chart, planets, houses, etc., which synthesizes their combined qualities. These points are not selected by chance, but because of their joint significations of a particular area of study. For example, in a natal chart, Almuten of the moon and Mercury gives indications of the type of mental structure that characterizes the individual. Obviously, the information given by Almuten should be considered along with other interpretive factors. As an example, let's calculate the Almuten of the moon and Mercury in Nietzsche's horoscope. The moon is at 9 degrees, Sagittarius 2 minutes. In this sign, Jupiter has rulership, nocturnal triplicity, and term for a total of 10 points. 5 plus 3 plus 2. Saturn's simply has participating triplicity, and so it receives 3 points. The Sun has diurnal triplicity, and so it receives 3 points. Mercury has the face in this degree, which yields 1 point. Mercury is at 4 degrees Libra and 9 minutes. Venus is ruler, so it gets 5 points. Saturn owns its exaltation, the diurnal triplicity, and term, thus garnering 9 points. 4 plus 3 plus 2. Jupiter owns the participating triplicity, so it receives 3 points. Mercury has diurnal triplicity, which is awarded 3 points. The moon has dignity by face, receiving 1 point. If we place these calculations in a table, we get the results shown in figure 16. Jupiter has the highest score, therefore it is the Almuten. However, Saturn is close, 1 point less, so it's considered a co-Almuten. That is, it adds to the coloring to that of Jupiter. The significance of these two planets is also reinforced by the large differences in scores in the remaining planets. In practice, Nietzsche's mindset is thus colored by a mix of Jupiter, which is philosophical thought, faith, mysticism, and by Saturn, scientific thought, skepticism, and critique. The result of this complex mixture is, by the way, apparent in his writing. Almuten is a specialized adjunct of interpretation. It is used only in particular cases when it's necessary to make very detailed delineations. It's never used indiscriminately, whether when applying the calculation to an isolated point or in the synthesis of various points of the chart. In summary, it is useless to calculate Almuten for groups of random points, because the results will be meaningless. On one hand, Almuten, as by the way of everything in astrology, is never interpreted in isolation. One must always consider the general context of the horoscope. It is useless to state, for example, that a given planet is the Almuten of the ascendant, immediately drawing conclusions from this fact. One must understand in detail the dynamic of that planet and of the actual ascendant. For the information given by Almuten to make sense, only when properly contextualized can this information complement and deepen the basic interpretation of a horoscope. So it's like painting a hue on top of a color. Note, a second Almuten, co-Almuten, is only valid when Almuten of various combined points is considered. In the case of Almuten of a single point, only consider a co-Almuten if two planets are equally tied in dignity scoring. Okay, I think this is going to be a short one because this begins a new chapter, which I think should be a new video. And it is chapter 7, the houses. So we'll start next on page 83. Thanks, guys.